Pirate 101 is a game about pirates, of course, that released in 2012 that's also known as the sister MMO to Wizard 101, the more popular one that you've probably heard of. Now, Pirate 101 was supposed to be a spin-off of Wizard because there's a lot of elements the two of them kind of share together, like you have similar worlds and sometimes you see recurring characters. But the thing about Pirate 101 is that even though it released with a massive reception and a huge player base, over the years people have kind of just slowly started abandoning it to the point where the developers were forced to just leave the game as nothing. They kind of just abandoned the project temporarily. They left it in what's called maintenance mode. Maintenance mode is when an MMO just stops releasing updates and kind of just keeps the servers alive for the sake of keeping the people happy. And now after a couple of years, Pirate 101 has been slowly making a comeback because there was a live stream talking about the planned updates that they want to go forward with in the game. So they bring back a community and they want to bring back the idea of like constantly releasing updates for the game. So I got the chance to try it out. And if you are wondering if you want to check out Pirate 101, if you care more about pirates and wizards, well, I just want to share with you guys my experiences so that way you can make the decision if you should go play some Pirate 101 or if you just go not do that and go do something else. In the world of Pirate 101, you basically start off as an orphan that's being captured by the Armada, right? You were a pirate and you got captured until you're rescued by Boochbeard and Mr. Gandry. So this is where you actually get to pick a class and your backstory. So when we're talking about classes, you can be a buccaneer, a musketeer, a privateer, a swashbuckler, or a witch doctor. So if you've played MMORPGs like World of Warcraft, you kind of just get your warriors, your rogues, your rangers, your spellcasters, that sort of thing. So you pick your class and you also pick your backstory. And unfortunately, you get to decide how your parents were killed. I think mine, when I was playing, they got eaten by a kraken or something. That's one of the things I picked out. But this actually influences how your story plays out to a degree, because one of the things that are influenced by your backstory is the fact that you can choose your companions. There's certain companions that are limited to certain classes and certain backstories. And what the companions are for is that they just help you fight alongside you and they kind of help propel the story forward because they're often seen as people who are narrating the events. So they're actually a core element of the game that you don't really see in Wizard 101, because in Wizard 101, you're basically just a one-man army. You're just one wizard that's just out to conquer the world. Meanwhile, in Pirate 101, you're a pirate captain. You got your own ship, which you can upgrade, by the way. You start off with a rinky-dinky ship, and then you end up with eventually with a giant armada ship. And well, of course, every pirate captain needs its crew. So your companions are basically your crews, and they're very important for the core element gameplay of the game, because the combat system is very similar to games like Fire Emblem. I don't know if you've ever played Fire Emblem, but it's basically a real-time strategy, space-based combat, not space as in outer space, just like space as in like there's a map on the board and sort of like a board game. So you level up your character and you have different abilities. You level up your companions and your companions have different abilities too. And based on what kind of classes you end up picking and what characters you end up using as companions, there's a lot of, variety of how you decide to live out your life as a pirate. So you got your class picked out of what kind of pirate you want to be, you got your backstory and how your parents were killed, and you got a couple of companions along the way. What exactly do you do in the game? So you go around questing. There's a man called Captain Avery, which is the steward of the Skull Islands, the starting area, the free-to-play area, and you're basically sent on a chain quest to different worlds that have different themes. Some recurring worlds from Wizard 101 are actually there because you have Mushu, which is inspired off Imperial China, but they got Marleybone. Marleybone is currently where I'm stuck in Wizard 101, so that's a very familiar world as well if you've played that game before. So the plot in Wizard 101 is actually pretty interesting, and if you've played Wizard 101, it's really nice to see how those two connect. Personally, I think that the plot in Pirate 101 is a lot more in-depth, and it's just like better told, because you do have the different points of views from the different companions kind of just pushing the story forward and narrating it, and that is a very refreshing element in an MMO. Alright, so if you care about the story and not so much of the combat, then you might actually be inclined for Pirate 101, even though I'm not saying that Wizard 101 has a bad story. It is good. I just personally prefer the Pirate one. And the combat mechanics, well, Wizard 101 is a deck-building card game turn-based fighting game. And it's not really a fighting game, you fight with spells. And meanwhile, Pirate, like I mentioned, is a real-time strategy board game-esque, so you can kind of see why some people prefer to play one or the other. It also kind of makes sense as to why one game is a lot more popular than the other, because Wizard is a lot more simpler, and because these games are more targeted towards the younger audience. The younger audience tend to like a lot more simpler games, so you're just pressing on cards and shooting spells kind of seems a lot more easier than real-time strategy on the board. So it kind of makes sense to see why Wizard 101, after all these years, even though it's older than Pirate, it's still basically the prominent child of King's Isle. It's still like the most popular game that's out there between the two. The similarities that you have between Wizard 101 and Pirate, if you're already familiar with those MMO aspects, well, you have housing. That's one of the big things about these games that sort of make it have that cozy vibe. You can just buy furniture to decorate, or you can just build entire structures and just kind of just have your own space that you can bring your friends over and play mini games with and just hang out and chill. You know, that's a very pleasant aspect that you have in these MMORPGs. That's not just all about the combat and the adventuring. You know, there's a time and place for you to just sit down, relax, and just interact with people, because at the end of the day, if you're playing multiplayer, you want to play with friends, you want to have fun. There's also pets that you level up and they help you in combat, which is kind of interesting because in the game you have companions and you have pets. That's two different types of NPCs that help you along your quest. Meanwhile, Wizard only has, well, it only has pets. And of course you have your mounts to help you move faster, which I feel every single MMO has, except RuneScape, which doesn't have mounts. RuneScape doesn't have mounts. But it has a lot of those very common elements that you find in MMORPGs that make you want to try it out and play it and just live your life. Remember, it's all about immersion and living your best life inside a virtual game so you can ignore the realities of real life. So in my opinion, I personally prefer the combat mechanics and the storyline, and I really enjoy playing Pirate 101, even though Wizard might be the popular one and that gets all the updates and the max level is 160, meanwhile Pirate's max level is still level 70. I'm still interested in playing Pirate 101. Doesn't mean I'm gonna ignore Wizard 101 because that's, you know, like I said, it's also a very good game I'm playing, but I really want to get into the story of Pirate 101 and just enjoy it for what it is. And of course, just look forward for all the other updates that are gonna come for the game. So I'm actually really excited about that, and if you want to check it out, I highly encourage you to do so. You also have to pay the membership, just like in Wizard 101. I think it's like $9 a month, but they also do like discounts every now and then. You get the membership for half off. Or if you feel like using crowns to unlock areas permanently, I still don't think that's like the best idea, the best use of your crowns, when you can actually just use it for booster packs, defeat your gambling addiction. I guess you can also spend your crowns on unlocking areas permanently. But I still prefer buying booster packs because, you know, I grew up playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I grew up buying booster packs, so that's kind of like an addiction that's just like right there. It hits right in the heart. So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about today about Pirate 101 and why it's so different from Wizard 101 while still sharing a bunch of similarities, and whether you should check out Pirate 101 or just ignore it completely. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about today. I'll catch you on the next one.